Now, how much of that is credit? Like, especially starting out, how much credit?
Probably not a lot starting out.
It's not a lot.
Because you got to work to build
right.
that
You
credit.
got to work to build that credit. So I mean, realistically, you'd be lucky to get $150,000 credit. More than likely. Especially if you're leaving a job making less than $100,000 a year to start your own business.
Collateral.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of collateral. And who wants to put all their personal affairs up on the chopping block if it doesn't work out? On and just being sustainable for 6 months. It's going to cost us right at $1 million to sustain for 6 months.
With your projected goals.
And that was doing like $5 to $6 million worth of work per year, starting out, and then grow off of that.
So you need $1 million liquid.
Yeah, because I mean, you're looking at whatever it is. What is that? 25%. I mean, if you want to do, $5 to $6 million a year, in which if you're not, wanting to do at least $5 to $6 million a year, then I wouldn't even think about, starting a company. Because if you're going to be any kind of company at all, you're going to have to maintain a $5 to $6 million backlog year in and year out, just to be considered to be a small business.
And just to cover your overhead and everything, I guess.
Well, $5 to $6 million sounds like, a lot of money.
But it's not once everything's paid. No, yeah.
When you have, fuel, equipment, materials, because even though you're doing this project, you still got to fund the materials until you get paid for them. So, $5 to $6 million a year, if you're at 15% profit, you're looking at $750,000 a year gross profit. So $5 to $6 million a year is not, setting the world on fire. Because, you're $1 million or less profit a year. Roughly $750,000.
Yeah.
If you can't, sustain a business with a $700,000+ a year income, then you don't need to think about doing it.
Right.
Because there's no point in it. I mean, yeah, you've paid your salary, you paid your guy's salary, but you got to build your company. And $750,000 on a multi-million-dollar business is not a whole lot of money per year to put back into that business.
Right.
So, if as you're getting started with your new company, you set your goal on what kind of budget you want to operate around. You want to be a $2 million company, $3 million company a year, $5 million company a year. At that point, you're saying to calculate your costs, you need to have half of that.
Well, close to it, yeah.
Before you start receiving.
Yeah, you need to have, at least 30% of your money liquid to where you have to operate off of.
30%. Now, how much of that is credit? Like, especially starting out, how much credit?
Not a lot starting out.
It's not a lot.
Because you got to work to build that credit.
You got to work to build that credit. So, I mean, realistically, you'd be lucky to get $150,000 credit. More than likely.
You don't need some equity.
If you're leaving a job making less than $100,000 a year to start your own business,
collateral.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of collateral. And who wants to put all their personal affairs up on the chopping block if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
That's probably a tough sale with the wife.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now,
we'll have to put the deed to the home on the line and let's get busy.
Is there a point where eventually, like, let's say you're content with being a smaller company and you want to remain at this $6 million range for an extended period of time? This is the size crew you want to run, it's the type of jobs you like to bid on and work through. At some point, your credit's going to get better. And at some point, if you're making this profit, eventually the goal would be to become totally debt-free and non-reliant upon any other sources. You own your own equipment, your crews are happy, and obviously your crew expenses are going to increase over time as well because you want to pay your guys well and you want to give them raises. But
you can't keep them if you don't.
Can't keep them. Yeah. But at what point can you make that decision safely to say, like, okay, maybe we go up to $10 million over the next 5 years or 2 years? You set a plan in place. How would someone go about making that strategy? Does it just happen?
Well, no, I mean, I would want to focus on being 20% or less debt to income ratio. At that point, I wouldn't be scared to go, 50, 60% debt to income ratio. And then ride that out for, 2 or 3 years, get back to where you're 20% or less debt to income ratio. And then if you want to grow more or continue on at that pace until you're debt free. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, you can start to bank your own money and grow off your own money. And that's the ultimate goal.
You can invest.
You can invest your own back into your company. And that's where I would try to entice people, to get to. That would be the end game, is get to the point to where you're not dependent on investors. You're not dependent on banks. Up front, yes, to a certain point. But then as you make money, get your debt paid down, start a savings or escrow account, work out that escrow account. When you need money, you got your money set aside in an escrow account, drawing interest. Mm-hmm. As you need money, draw the escrow account. Avoid the bank. Avoid investors. Work out of your escrow account.
Because that's gaining you money.
That's gaining you money.
And
that's gaining you leverage.
You're not paying the interest.
Right.
You're the one gaining interest.
Exactly. So what you use out of your escrow account, you can charge yourself interest on it and replenish that escrow account as time goes on. That way you are the bank. You're making money off money you're investing in yourself. Mm-hmm. So you're doing the same thing as using the bank, but in this case, you're making the same money the bank will be making.
Your bank.
Yes.
And your escrow account could be invested into funds or something that's
however
actually gaining interest.
Yeah. There's multiple different ways you can structure that escrow account. And that's what I would focus on, trying to put as much or keep as much money in that escrow account as I possibly could, and work off of my income that I'm currently making. Because in your cost, your living expenses, your weekly check that you draw, and all your employees, that's all based in your monetary amount per month. Mm-hmm. So you're repaying this escrow account, and your salary is already taken care of. Mm-hmm. So what hurts you is when you, as an individual or an owner, start seeing need to grow your lifestyle, and then you want to take more income. Mm-hmm. Well, be patient. That income will come later on down the road. Focus on building your business. Get your business built up to where it's sustainable, no debt. Whatever debt you owe to yourself. So if you take your profits and put them into the escrow account over time, as you need money, you deplete some of your escrow account, but you pay it back. And then that way, you have debt, but it's debt to yourself, no debt to no one else.
Mm-hmm. You can pay back a little interest to yourself.
Exactly.
How about that?
Yeah.
Collecting interest payments from yourself.
Seems like
and what you do is you incorporate it into your bids, your future bids.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, I know I'm going to run my equipment at this rate, but I want to buy some new equipment, so I'm going to elevate it by such and such percent. Mm-hmm. So you start, tacking on. Well, in the future, I'm going to give my guys raises. So you want to incorporate that into your bids. Just like in your labor and burden, say your labor and burden runs you, 25%. Well, let's run it at 35%. Add an extra 10% on there to allow for future raises, future employees, and that, and there again, you're making money.
And that's a good point you've made, is that like when you sat down to put a bid together, it's not all about the job that it's in front of you today.
It's about the future.
It's about the future.
Exactly.
So you need to account for that in every bid.
If you're just bidding for that job, it's going to be, you're really relying on each job to go very, very well. And you're going to run into bumps, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In today's market here in our area, now's the perfect time to focus on that. Focus on growth.
Because everyone else is.
Yes, exactly.
When everything is growing around you, it's safe to focus on your growth as well. Yeah. I like that.
But, the end game is to be self-sustainable, to where keep your vendors paid. Main thing. Because if I'm dealing with my vendor on a day-to-day basis, say you're a contractor, I'm a contractor. Say you pay your bills like clockwork. Well, say I drag mine out 45, 60, 90 days. Well, we use the same vendors. Well, when you call and get quotes, your quotes may be 1.5%, 2.5% cheaper than mine because, hey, they know that Jeff Gibbons is going to pay his bills, at the time allotted or before, where Jeff Spencer, he draws his out, longer times. And so I'm having to bank his equipment